Bill Ballenger is on the other end of our line. He was the racing commissioner once a long time ago, and has founded Inside Michigan Politics and done an awful lot in between. Thanks for being available. Welcome back to the program.
My pleasure.
Did you went to the Mackinac Policy Conference for a number of years, right?
I did.
Did I see you there this year or not really?
No.
Okay, we missed you then.
I get up to Mackinac Island at other times.
Oh, good. Then you can actually enjoy yourself. That's
Exactly.
They did a survey, MERS and Deno Research, and they asked people, should this conference be held in Detroit? After all, it's the Detroit conference, and shouldn't it be supporting the city? And 61% of the respondents said the conference should stay right where it is, for what it's worth. And I also found it interesting, too. They asked Bill and Tony Cuthbert, since that was your first policy conference, what's the number one reason that you attend the conference? Okay. Take a guess what percent the speakers turned up in. It's what percent of people said we go for the speakers?
5%.
Yeah, 2%.
2%.
And what percent you think went for the sessions?
Sessions, 0.0%.
4%. The number one reason people went was the networking.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Schmoozing.
Yeah, schmoozing. And then the 15% said they had specific meetings with clients. And then 6%, my favorite group, said they went for the receptions and the parties.
Really, that's the number one reason. They just don't want to admit it.
Well, I didn't know if we would get to see another Triple Crown winner ever, but it happened. Were you surprised or no?
Well, by the time of the race itself, I think there was a stronger feeling it could actually occur this time compared to the dozen other times since 1978 when we thought it might, but it didn't.
The fact of the matter is that some people are saying, and we talked to Steve Haskin a little bit earlier, the acclaimed racing writer, and he said, well, everybody says this would be good for racing. Do you agree? And he said, well, for now everyone's talking about it, but what will happen next year is this will be forgotten like lots of other things. And then, if a horse does mount a chance at a Triple Crown next year, it won't have the same intrigue because we've had one after all now. Do you agree with that?
Well, to a certain extent. I mean, actually, that is the big question for me, and I think a lot of horse racing fans, and that's whether finally getting a Triple Crown winner will give horse racing a shot in the arm in this country, because it's been lagging for a number of years, certainly in Michigan. Obviously, horse racing has been almost extinguished. It's really tragic what's happened. And even though there's no real link between a thoroughbred Triple Crown winner nationally and racing here in Michigan, I just think psychologically and getting people to focus on the sport and what could be done and what could be done by government here in Michigan to get it going again is a very important thing. And if this doesn't help, I don't know what will.
There's a legislator, a Democrat I think he's from Westland right now, who is suggesting that we open up casinos and allow simulcast race betting and perhaps sports book in order to pay for the roads, or at least pay for part of it. Any thoughts on that?
Well, a version of that has been proposed before. The only problem with that, again, is what about live horse racing itself? What about the tracks? That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about horse racing in Michigan. I mean, the equine industry here in Michigan has been in the past a huge industry, and it has obviously suffered a huge economic hit over the last several decades, particularly since the lottery was approved in 1972. And, just allowing enhanced sports betting or simulcast racing from tracks around the country in a casino is not going to do anything to help the actual live horse racing industry here in Michigan. I'm talking about either thoroughbreds or trotters and pacers at the tracks.
Yeah, it's too bad because, for me, I was brought up, my grandpa used to take me to the harness races and a DRC, all the time, and it was a cool experience, and they even let kids in there. Obviously, you couldn't bet, but it sure was fun to watch those things come down the stretch.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, as recently as 20 years ago, we were one of the biggest harness racing states in the country, one of the half dozen biggest harness racing states in the country. A lot of people didn't really know it, and it's not thoroughbred racing, it's not the Triple Crown, but it was a huge industry here in Michigan. Today, that's been almost entirely eliminated. The standardbreds don't even really have any place to race right now other than Northville Downs in a very limited meet. And the thoroughbreds 20 years ago had the Detroit Race Course, you mentioned. They had thoroughbred racing over in Muskegon and Mount Pleasant. That's all gone. They do have a limited meet now at Hazel Park, but that's all that's left.
Well, that is a bummer, to be sure, but it was exciting yesterday. You want the stretch one more time here? Bill Ballenger, this is it. This was the win for American Pharoah yesterday.
And they're into the stretch, and American Pharoah makes his run for glory as they come into the final furlong. Frosted is second with 1/8 of a mile to go. American Pharoah's got a 2-length lead. Frosted is all out at the 16th pole. And here it is. The 37-year wait is over.